What's up, Scoop Podcast? I'm your host, Erica Kroopin, and on today's episode, we have a guest. Whoop, whoop. We have Justin with Department of Duty. What's up, Justin?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm super excited to have you on. This was a hard one. You are a hard person to get on the show.
I'm not good at being on camera.
Yeah, yeah,
Get a
right.
little nervous.
I watched one of your YouTube videos where you were just talking to the camera, talking about the business a few years ago. That was such a good video. You do so good on camera.
Yeah, it's a lot of takes.
All right, well, we're just gonna do one take here. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us like a little highlight reel about who Justin is and what your business is about.
Mainly with me, I'm just a dad entrepreneur. We have 5 kids, and I just just mainly just have worked and just want to have kids. And main reason why I even started a business goes back to when I was a teenager. People ask you what you want to be when you grow up, and I'd always say a dad. And then, they'd always follow up with, well, to be a dad, you have to support your family. And so then I'd always say, a police officer. And it just got to where when I learned what an entrepreneur was, that's when I kind of found out that like that's how you can kind of have both the way that I wanted it,
Hmm.
because you can make money while being at home with your kids, being the dad, and have someone else work for you instead of doing the work yourself. And so that's kind of how this whole thing got started, with wanting to have a business. Was in my teens, just knowing that I had to do something by myself to be able to be with my family as much as possible.
That's a really strong why. I mean, that's probably the strongest why that I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's just been just the stress of years of, I had a lot of jobs and a lot of good jobs, but a lot of learning on the way. I've started multiple businesses that some pretty cool businesses, but they didn't work out. We still make jokes that dog poop is the one that took off out of the normal businesses. I had window cleaning and junk removal, stuff like that. That was more of your typical business.
What was your is would you say this one's your favorite?
I mean, no.
So, like, why is that? I mean, it's the one that's worked out. It's the one that's most profitable. But why would you say that it's not like your favorite?
I mean, it's my favorite because it's the one that took off,
Hmm.
and now provides jobs for multiple people, including my mom. I got to basically retire her from the job that she hated. Um, but I don't know. The junk removal, if I think back on it, was my favorite. Um, I loved having the big truck. I had an F-350 and a trailer, and I liked the like the hard work aspect of it. We'd go out with a couple guys, and we would just fill up a 16-foot trailer from a garage, or remodel, and then go to the junkyard. Go to, not the junkyard, but the landfill. So it was just everything behind that was kind of my favorite. Um, this one was just a little different. It
Yeah.
doesn't have that cool manly aspect of throwing junk and all the hard work.
So my husband and I talk about this because my husband does tree work and he's like a tree
Yeah.
guy. He goes really high up and it's like manly, manly work. And he's come out and worked with me as well. And when him and I talk about it, because he works for another company, and he gets so upset because he thinks about like how the jobs were priced and how many men were on that job. And he has said several times, my wife is making more money per man hour scooping dog poop than you are at like running this tree service. Like
Mhm.
it blows his mind. He's like, it's so simple, but the man hour rate is higher than a lot of the tree services with like all this overhead. And
Right.
yeah, it's like it's cool because you're taking down trees and you have these awesome before and afters, but at the end of the day, like the poop scooping is producing way more money and has way better profits.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Favorite. Yeah. I guess favorite now would be this, just because of the business side of it. This business is better. It's recurring
Yeah.
visits. You don't have to try to get jobs every single day. With that, junk removal, window cleaning, you're just kind of praying to get, five more jobs next week, or close out the month with a certain amount of jobs. And basically, with this, we know, within just a few numbers of how many jobs we're going to have every week, every day, every month.
Yeah, and you have a
So,
big business. And so I want to talk about that. But before I do, I'm doing something a little different. I want to plug your socials and where people can find you at the beginning of the episode, just so we don't forget by the end of it. So, where can people find you online to keep in touch with you?
I'm mainly on Facebook. Uh, I guess I'm part of the older crowd that's still on Facebook and rarely on Instagram. But yeah, I'm Justin Owen on Facebook. And then on Instagram, I have a Department of Doody page, and my own. I think it's Justin Owen 12.
Okay, we'll double check that and we'll put all of your links down in the description so
Okay,
people can
yeah.
keep up with you. All right. So tell us, how big is your business because you're considered a big dog in the industry?
Right, which is weird to me because I don't see it as being big. I so we are doing right at between 940 and 950 yards a week, with about 800 and I'd say 880 clients, because there's some that are twice a week, up to six times a week.
Oh my gosh. And when did you start your business?
6 years ago,
6 years.
2018.
And how many team members are doing all of those jobs?
We have six full-time technicians that basically do all of those, and then I have an operations manager that helps out in the field when he needs to. But he does most of like client onboarding, checking routes, helping me with invoices. He's doing a lot with that. And then my mom is what we call the office assistant. So she takes a lot of calls in, clients that want to like add a new card or reschedule, how to change their service, stuff like that. She'll talk with them.
So are you not in the field at all anymore?
No.
At what point did you step out?
Mm, fully, like this year. Yeah, I was still not like scooping full time, but I was still doing some yards late last year. It wasn't until I got Christopher, he's my operations manager. He kind of helped, with the push. You get employees that are like, you should be out here with us, and you kind of feel weird being at home. And getting him in was kind of like, he's like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be out here. I'll go handle it. You should not be out here doing this. And so it kind of helped with that mindset of like, hey, you're right. You know, I paid too much in payroll to be out here scooping too.
What does an operations manager do?
Mainly just oversee everything. So basically everything that I was doing before, I would wake up at 7:30 in the morning, and the first thing I would do is make sure that everybody was clocked in, make sure that the routes looked like they were supposed to look, make sure I wasn't missing something. And then throughout the day, I'd make sure that everybody was kind of hitting where they were supposed to be by that time. Just make sure they weren't having any issues. And then anytime like he also handles like if customers complain, uh, then he would be the one to either go out there himself to go check it and fix it, or send that tech or another tech back, just depending on who's closer. Uh, so yeah, he basically does all the operations side of it. That just took me out of a lot of stuff. He talks to the employees now, which was a weird transition. I have guys who've been with me for 3.5 years, so that was kind of hard. But yeah, it's kind of the point where I almost feel like I'm 35 and retired because I don't talk to clients, I don't talk with employees, I don't scoop yards. He's just he's just handling it all.
Oh my gosh, you're blowing my mind right now. This is crazy. Okay, so how did you find him and how did you get him trained up to be able to be that person for you?
Finding him was, I just say, luck, or God. He's he's pretty religious too, and
God. It was God.
he yeah, he called me and 'cause well, I had a post out on Indeed, and he saw it and, reached out. Just I think from what he said, it was just kinda like he was kinda in between jobs. He had worked at jewelry stores, did some kinda higher end jobs, managed restaurants, stuff like that, and he's probably about 15 years older than I am. He's got more experience with people and, um, not really owning a business, but manager side of it. And he called and we talked for. I mean, I remember I had to pull over. I had to pull over at a parking lot because we just were just running, and I was telling him all about the business, how I started it, where I came from, what my plans were and ideas were, and it was like I could just tell, that he kind of could grasp it and knew what I was talking about and could see it. And even when we got off the phone, I called my wife and I was like, "That was the first person I've ever talked to that I think I was trying to sell them on working for me instead of the other way around." Like I was like, I don't know if he's even going to say yes. Like I need this guy, and um, I picked him up the next day. I showed him how to do a yard, and he was just like, he told me he's like, I've been praying about it. I talked with my the guys that like his man group in the church. They talk with their life choices with each other, and he's like, I was talking to them and telling them I don't think I could do this. It's not my kind of work. He's very clean. He does not like the dog poop. He's very very like hand sanitizer clean person, and he basically told me, he said, I'm gonna take the job because of you. He said, I feel like I trust you, and you're gonna do big, great things. He said, I can just see it and I can feel it. And so he's like, but he said, I can give you a year. He said, I don't want to be scooping poop after the next year. Because I had told him, I have plans for these positions. I want more locations. I want supervisors, operation manager, lead techs, whatever those are. I don't want just a bunch of scoopers out there. I want people above them. I want overseeing things and higher position jobs. I want to be able to give careers. And he just believed that. And I just told him, I said, I want all these things. These are my dreams and my passion, but it could take, 2 months. It could take 2 years. It's just all about growth. It's how many clients we can get and how fast we can get them. As I grow, I add trucks, I add employees. I basically said every 6 technicians, I want to have either a lead tech or supervisor kind of over them, and then a operations manager over, 4 or 5 lead techs. So that was kind of his thing. He's going to go to lead tech and then operations manager later on. And it just ended up that I just kind of learned I needed to skip the lead tech part and go straight to operations manager and get him out of the field before I lost him.
Yeah. Now, how did you how did you learn all of this stuff? Like, how did you know the order and where you needed to place people? Did you read a book? Listen to a podcast?
I've listened to a lot of podcasts. Yeah. I guess mainly like I guess learning about oh, you can't see it, but I have the E Myth Revisited book. That was a big one. But
Repeat
I
that.
learned
What was
about
that?
the E Myth Revisited
Yes.
book. This
Okay.
guy. This is a big one.
Yeah.
But I learned about this. I learned about you know hiring the positions and stuff like that from Joshua Latimer. He used to have a podcast called the Quick Talk Podcast, and I listened to that religiously every day. Just I was behind a couple hundred episodes when I first found out about it, and so we just it was all from him mostly. He's got levels of business, level one, level two, up to level five, depending on how many calls you're taking, what positions you have, and
Has he been a big
yeah,
influence on you? Because I was actually chatting with Keith Kelfis the other day, and he brought up Joshua Latimer.
yeah, yeah. So I found Keith's YouTube. I think before Josh. I think I heard Josh on Keith's YouTube where he had mentioned him, and it used to be called the Quick Talk Podcast. This was 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, just yeah, Josh is the biggest influence. I get, I even get like emotional feeling talking about it because it's just he changed my life.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell, like, when you're talking about him, um, I can tell, like, the passion and how grateful you are behind that, and so when earlier when you said when you found your operations manager, it was either luck or God, I really it's a God thing, and I'm newer to faith, right? And trying and walking with faith. And a lot of times, like as things would happen in life, I'd be like, oh, it's just lucky, right time, right place, right person. And so now I'm kind of like looking back on my life and I'm like, things are happening. I'm like, because God has literally been blessing me and I've been ignoring the blessings.
Yep. Yeah, I'm kind of new with all that. I mean, I've been church for a long time, but I still see me like it's like a toddler Christian, new. And I'd say the same thing. I'm like, it was luck or whatever. And then even my operation manager, he's like, it wasn't luck, it was God. Like, he's like, he's like, you don't understand how much I prayed if I should even take this job or if I should be here. And I just kept feeling like it was it. And I was so thankful that he was in that position and could feel that because I just thought, maybe I'm crazy. I don't. It was kind of nice to have him confirm that he could feel what I felt because I was like, I don't know how to explain in words where I want to take this company, but I just have a really strong feeling that it's going to happen, and I just don't have like I can't tell you if it's gonna be next month. I can't tell you if it's gonna be next year. I just have it. I just feel it. It's gonna happen. We just got to just keep growing and um, even when people ask me like, how did I get to where I'm at from when I started? Did I'm like, I don't know. I don't have anything special. I don't, I didn't go to college. I didn't take any courses, and I just always go back to one word. I'm like, it's just consistency. I just kind of learned to kind of love that word because that's all I did. I just woke up every day, and no matter how badly I wanted to quit or give up or felt like an imposter, I was just like, I just did the same thing every day. Talk to the customers, scoop the yards, and I didn't know how to hire my first person. I just if someone asked me how I was going to, I was just like, I'll figure it out when I get there. You know, um, I got to like I was doing 190 yards a week by myself, and there was like, why don't you have somebody hired? I'm like, I don't know how to hire anybody, and so I just I just had to just try it, and then I screwed up a lot, and then fixed it, figured it out, and then it's gotten better, since then. But yeah, I was doing 6 days a week. I had a full time job and a part time job. Probably around 150 clients. I had three jobs. I was doing that plus two other jobs. Um, Finally quit the full time job, and then I still picked up more hours with the part time job. I was working at my church, and but yeah, I just everything that I say is just consistency. Just do the same thing every day and just keep doing it. I just put my head down, turn on my podcast, and just scoop the yard, send the invoices, talk to clients, scoop the yard, send the invoices, and it turned into hiring my first guy. And then I I would be back out in the field. Basically, how I did it, I would hire somebody, I would feel retired for a month until some more clients came in, and then I would buy a vehicle or finance buy a vehicle or buy one, and um, I would just start scooping. I basically did that. I would scoop until I got to 150 yards, and then I would hire a new person, and then I'd scoop again to 150 yards, and then hire another person. I never wanted to hire part time. I was worried about someone having other obligations and calling in or needing to leave early. So I would put myself back in the field, and I would not hire someone until I could give them 40 hours a week and a vehicle and all this stuff. So it took a little longer than other people, but that's why I don't feel like a big company because I know ones that have thousands of clients, and I know where I want to be. And, you know, I know like William, you had William on here. He was at 1,002 years, I think. And I'm like, so it makes me feel like, I'm taking too long. It's too small. And of course, being in the fire for, 6 years doing it, it feels a lot longer. I kind of related to like, you think about bodybuilders or the opposite, people that have, body issues, it's like they they have to keep working out or they have to keep eating healthy because they don't feel skinny enough or they don't feel big enough. And I'm kind of like, it's kind of business is kind of the same way when you're in it every single day and you're growing little by little every single day. You know, to other people, you look big, but to yourself, it's like this is normal and it's not where I want to be. So you still feel small. I still get that imposter syndrome, you know, where I'm like, I don't know how I got here. I don't know why I'm here. I don't feel like I know how to do the things that I'm doing. But at the same time, I still kind of learned that like maybe people like Josh feel the same way. You know, it's like nobody's a genius in this. They're all just kind of doing the same, you know, doing it every day, just going through the motions and figuring it out.
No, it's true. We are going through the motions, and when you I was talking about this with Adam and Lindsay. You know, when I'm talking to bigger business owners that know more, I'm like, I'm stupid. Like I don't even know anything. Like how do I even add value? But then if you kind of look back and you get around people that are newer in business that honestly really don't know anything, it almost gives you like a reminder, like a reality check. You're like, oh, okay, I know some things. Never mind. And so I think because you're leveling up and you're getting around people that are bigger than you, it will make you feel that way. But definitely don't beat yourself up. Like you're when I'm listening to you speak, we started pretty much like around the same time. I'm like, that's how I'm feeling. I'm like, I should be where you're at. I'm a big fat loser,
Oh no.
you know?
Yeah,
Let's talk about hiring, if you can, because you talked about you were in the field, you were building people up, or building up your route. What are the qualifications that you're looking for when you hire now?
that's still the hardest thing to figure out.
What qualifications does your best scoopers have?
A background in pest control.
Oh, okay.
That's those are the yeah the best guys that I've hired is yeah pest control guys. I was just talking to William about this, um, but yeah, one of the hardest things for us is hiring because people, whether it be someone applying for a job or a client or one of your friends or family members, um, they look at this as like, you know, a 10-year-old can do it. And so you get that those kind of people that apply for these jobs, they're like, a 10-year-old can do it. I could do this job. And so hiring is really hard. I'm still trying to learn and figure out a way to make a job posting and kind of make this look and feel like a pest control type job without, you know, the chemicals and all that kind of stuff. But still learning that. But yeah, all of my best guys who are, you know, running routes and scooping and all that were pest control guys. Or they've done this before. I recently started getting employees that actually have experience scooping. They worked for other companies. That was terrifying, you know, hiring somebody that had from another company.
Were they able to bring some insights to you on how the other company ran?
Yeah, some which that was one of my things I was scared of is because I just I do the things that I learned from YouTube and podcasts and kind of just what I liked
Mhm.
or watching people argue about on Facebook and then picking one.
Yeah.
Um, and so like when I had the first guy apply from another company, that's one thing I told my wife. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong or what doesn't make sense. So I'm like terrified of bringing someone in and then them seeing that, you know, I'm a fake or I'm a, you know, an imposter, like I talked about, like, you know, nothing that you're doing is like them. You know, it's like I don't have great systems in place. I hadn't even created any kind of manual or employee handbook. I still don't have a great one dialed in. Um, and so I was like, these other companies, they have all these things. They have nice trucks and they have handbooks and manuals, and like I don't have those. And then so my first guy that I hired from one of the largest companies that I know of, um, he was blown away. That's what made me feel better. He came in and worked with us, and he was like, "Everything you have is so much better than what I had over there." He's like, "I don't know how you're not 10 times bigger than them." You know, he's like, "We were doing stuff on paper and, you know, using their own vehicles or the equipment that they used wasn't very good." And so that was a learning thing for me because I felt like I'm like, I wanted to learn something from you. Tell me what they're using that's better than what I have. And he's like, nothing. This is what they had me use. And I'm like, why would you use that? You know? So yeah, that's been the rough one. But now I've gotten a few others, and they just, you know, they don't run them the same. They don't pay them the same.
You learned
But
a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. Other than that,
You learned a lot from
yeah,
that guy right there just from listening to what you're saying. Like, you realize you learned that you are doing way better than you think you are. You're super organized, you're super advanced, you're setting up the foundation, and you have God on your side. You have like who you are as a person, right? Because there's a lot of business owners like yeah, they have the systems. They have all these things, but they're garbage people, right? They don't have the fundamentals down right. And so a lot of times those are the people that are the most miserable.
yeah. I've heard that too from them. That the
Yeah.
people that they worked for just weren't good, and they're like, you know, not to do my horn, but that's kind of what they say. They're like, you know, you're so much like nicer and laid back, and like you understand where we're coming from more, and that's what I tell them. I'm like, yeah, because I was in it. I was scooping 100. The most I did was 100 and I think 98 yards in 1 week, and I was like, I did it for years. You know, everything y'all are doing, working in the rain, working in the heat, working in the snow. I did it all. You know, I worked with the flu. I worked with COVID. I've 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 done it, so I relate to them and understand where they're coming from. So that's been good.
So
But
when
yeah,
you
yeah, going to answer it'd be pest control guys for sure.
okay, so pest control guys and then hiring. Are you doing the hiring still or is your operations manager hiring for you?
Yeah, he's been the last, I don't know, I guess 2 hires ago. We did them together, and then I kind of backed out and kind of let him because I don't know. I'm not good at like I'm kind of overly nice, overly trusting in people, and so
Same.
it's too easy for me to say yes. I'm a people pleaser, and I don't know. He's just really good at like he is too, but he's also I don't know more of like that that older dad personality where he can be really nice to you and tell you that you messed up or tell you that you don't make sense. You know, and can kind of just use words that they call verbal judo better than I can. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let you do this. You do it and then tell me how it went.
I like that.
Yeah, I learned that when I did security, we got trained with a lot of police officers and military. And that's what they use as verbal judo, kind of how to talk someone down and de-escalate a situation.
I definitely need that because I am just very blunt and I'll say something and my husband's like, "Why are you like this?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's just it's very cut and dry." And he's like, "Ugh, Erica." So okay. All right, verbal
Yeah.
judo. So your guy, he can de-escalate stuff. So what is can you walk us through what it like a typical day looks like for the operations of your company?
I mean, it's pretty easy. I don't know. I always say like I don't know if I'm not doing enough. You know, I tell my wife sometimes like I probably work 90% less than any other business owner. Like sometimes I don't feel like a business owner because I'm like so relaxed about it. I never wanted to be like a micromanager. I never wanted to be someone that was like hard, on people's back all the time. I didn't like that when I worked at other places, and so it makes me a little more relaxed. Um, so yeah, for some companies it might be a lot more because they call their techs, they have meetings, they call them all, see how they're all doing, how they're feeling, talk to them about their route. And I've just kind of learned that gets on people's nerves because they're like, I know what I'm doing, just let me do it. Um, so for ours, it's a little more simple and laid back than others. But my technicians all take their cars home. I have a few dumpster sites, so they just dump and go home at the end of the day. And we use Swoop and Go for our CRM, so it's all on their phone. We actually just started providing company phones, and so they have a company iPhone. Swoop and Go is added on there, and then it just does it all. I they have routes, so I assign a tech in a day, and then I just kind of let it go. And so typical day would be they wake up, they turn on the car, they clock in the sweep and go, and then they just go run their route. And I got 6 texts out. There's days that go by, 3 or 4 days in a row where I don't hear from a client or a technician. They just go run their route. They go to the dumpster. They throw the trash away. They clock out and they go home. And then the next day they just do it again. It's kind of a little more, I guess, on the operations side. Now that I have an operations manager, he comes in the mornings, make sure that everybody's route looks good, nobody's called in, everybody's clocked in and working. And then with the amount of clients that we have cards on file, charges them the day after every visit. So we have 30 to 40 declined cards every day. So kind of what he does, he goes in and he's gonna look at the dispatch board from the day before, and he's gonna look for our guys take photos of the gate when they're done to the client, and then there's a photo to the office. And so what that does is if there's any tall grass in the yard or a lot of leaves, trash, debris, anything, I tell them anything that makes you feel like you're not 100% sure if you were able to get all of the poop cleaned up, take a picture of the yard.
Yes.
Um, so that's what Christopher, as operations manager, part of his job is the next morning to go through the dispatch board and look for photos. Um, Basically, just I just asked him like, hey, make mental notes of it, the name and what it looked like, because that client's probably going to call the next day and complain that their yard, we missed one pile or whatever. And so being on top of that, where he can say, yeah, so and so was there yesterday. He was there for this long. Track how long they were in the yard. And so you say, hey, he was back there for 10 or 12 minutes. Typical yard takes us 7 minutes, so he did spend extra time. And I can see that it was probably due to your grass is really tall. It hasn't been mowed in a few weeks. He did take a photo of it. So it's just things that like show that he spent a little bit extra time. Plus, he really did try, because he did send us a picture showing like, hey, this, I'm worried that I wasn't able to get it all, and here's why.
Hmm.
So that's part of on the operations side. It's just checking all the dispatch board, and then also we keep track of if they have to skip a yard. So they're required to, if they skip a yard, they have to choose a reason. Gate locked, or an aggressive dog was outside. So they choose that. If the customer calls them in advance to skip the yard, we have an option that just says other. And so they'll choose other, and then they have to add in the notes to the office on like what the customer said. Um, and so those are things that he does, is he looks for that and see how many skips did we have, what were the reasons for the skip, um, and then contacting the clients if he has to kind of let them know how it goes from here. But yeah, everything else on the scooper side of it is pretty simple. They clock in, the route's optimized. It's an order of 1 through 30 stops typically, and then they just start, complete, scoop, send pictures, hit the dumpster at the end of the day, clock out, and go home.
Now, do they keep all the supplies at their house, or do you have an office where supplies are stored?
We have an office.
And then they just go to the office when they need to stock up?
I'd say once every 2 weeks,
Yeah,
they go to the office and stock up.
sounds about right. And then, so you said it's pretty chill. So are you not having like Monday meetings? Like everybody gets together and chants and attack. None of that?
Yeah.
No,
No.
I'm serious. I'm happy to hear you say this because you're shining a light on something that I was feeling very insecure about because my team runs smooth. They really do run smooth. Everything runs pretty much without me, unless there's a big issue that it comes to me. And Justin, when I tell you, like you are opening my eyes so much because I was thinking the only reason why my girls run this smooth is because they're unicorns. I'm not a good business owner. They're unicorns. And that's the reason why I've been struggling to hire because I've been thinking I'm this loser that can't hire.
I've had a lot of employees, and a lot of them didn't work out. Um, I got some great guys right now. There's little things, but we work through them. But no, the reason I was like, I hesitate like when you ask that because I feel like that's one of the spots that I'm maybe like what you said where I'm failing at is because I don't do the meetings.
But it's like, do you
Um,
have to? Do you have to do those meetings if you're not being contacted and bothered in days and your operations
yeah,
manager can handle it and he's still happy, right? And everybody's still happy. Do you have to have those Monday meetings every Monday or is it once a
right.
quarter? Like what is necessary?
Yeah, or even once a month, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, people do weekly ones, and I'm just like, I don't know. Other companies tell me we should, and I'm just like, but why? Like, it's harder because you struggle on both ends. Because it's
Uh,
like, well, I don't, because it's like, it's so simple. You just go out and scoop the poop. But then at the same time, like I said earlier, you want it to look more like a pest control job. So, it's not where a 10-year can do it. So that makes you feel like we should be having meetings because it is a little more in depth.
yeah, but a
Um,
10-year-old wouldn't be able to be self-sufficient as the scoopers. You know?
right,
Like and if you have these meetings, is that gonna distract them from spending more time with the customer, creating that better experience because 'cause they're worried about making it to, a 7 a.m. meeting on Monday.
right, right. I hear from like technicians where it I feel like we need to start some kind of meeting thing at least once a month because they start feeling really disconnected because they don't see other technicians, they don't talk to other technicians, and then if we're not, like I said, I sometimes go days without talking to them because we don't need to. They're not messing up. Our clients are able to review them 1 to 5 stars after every single visit, and so they're getting 5 stars or 4 stars. They're getting tips. Nothing's getting broken. Nothing's getting messed up. Dogs aren't getting out. Gates aren't being left open. Everybody's clocking in at 7:30 in the morning. They're getting done by 3:30, 4 o'clock. So I just, it's good, and then it's also bad because I get like complacent with it, and then things do start kind of going wrong, but you don't know about it because it's just little things. For example, yesterday I had a tech. So Tuesday he had a heat stroke in the middle of his route and had to be taken by ambulance. Um, Not just from the heat stroke, but the heat stroke turned into a panic attack. I didn't know, but I found out he's been on anxiety medicine and he's been off of it, and so the heat stroke turned into a panic attack because he thought he was dying, which made everything worse. That's why I was kind of laughing when you asked me because I'm like, just yesterday, he, he didn't work yesterday, and I don't know if he's going to be off tomorrow. But anyways, one of the vehicles that another tech was using, we've had issues with it, and we haven't had any extra vehicles for someone to use. So it's been kind of like put a band-aid on the car, keep using it. I have 3 Mavericks that I ordered that are coming this week or early next week. One showed up yesterday, and then the other two are supposed to show up. So it's like weird. I have the fix. I have the fix coming, but it's not here yet. So like, put a band-aid on it. Keep driving the car. Be as safe as you can. So when this guy had the heat stroke, he's out. So I called in this other tech. I said, "Hey, come drop off your car, pick up this guy's truck, and let's just." I don't know what's going to happen with him and the cars, but for now, use his truck and we'll figure out his car. Um, but it kind of opened my eyes because I was looking at the guy that had the heat shock. I was looking at his truck, and I'm just like, I was kind of embarrassed with the other guy that was there because he came from another company, and his car looks good. And then I'm looking at the truck of the guy that I have that hasn't worked for another company that's just from me, and it was kind of a mess. I'm like, why doesn't he have this? Why does he have this is like this? Or why isn't it here? And that's what this other guy mentioned. He's like, well, if you had like some type of meeting, you can make sure you can look at everybody's car. You can make sure that it all looked the same, that they had what they needed. He's like, the other company I worked for had a, meeting at least once a month. And I was like, I know. I was like, I don't do it because I don't feel like I need to because everything's going good. But then at the same time, there's little things that you don't know about. Like I want them to use kennel saw to sanitize their tools. And then I got one guy using bleach and water. And I don't know. That could work. It could be great. It could be better. I just don't know these things because I'm not meeting up with them. I don't know exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Yeah, and bleach is only stable for a certain amount of time, so, and yeah, I agree with you. What do they say? My dad used to say this, "Give them an inch, they'll take a mile," something like that. And there was another one that he said, but that's not like I don't think I can say that on YouTube. I get that just with like my 2 girls. Like sometimes I'll look at the one vehicle and I'll have to have a conversation. I'll say, no wrappers, no pop cans. Everything needs to go into a trash can. Your vehicle needs to stay clean on the inside as well on the outside. Like it's not acceptable. So and I've had to be checked because my truck has gotten messy inside, and my girl's like, "Hey, what's the standard for vehicle policy?" I'm like, "You are correct. Let me clean this up." Mhm.
Yeah, I don't let them see mine. It's
You gotta set the
one of those
standard.
things where you say like, "Do as I say, not as I do."
Oh my god, my dad
I mean,
says
that's
it all the time.
yeah.
Like,
I'm
"Whatever,
like,
dad."
I got so many things going on. I got 2 businesses that, we have another business that we do the funky foam,
Yeah,
and then I got 5 kids, and I'm like, I got a lot of things going on, the business side of it. Helping out other people or jumping out to do something, and, um, yeah, it kinda goes that, but, um, one of the things I was gonna tell you that we do, I found out, from Tim is, do you use Microsoft Teams?
no, I use Slack.
Okay, yeah, so we have Microsoft Teams, and I created probably 6 different chats, and one of them is, called a EOD/EOW chat, so it's end of day, end of week chat, and so what they do is at the end of every day, when they clock out, they send in a picture of their mileage, and they send in a picture of their rake and bucket to show that it's clean, so that they're ending the day with a clean rake and a clean bucket, so we know they're starting the day with that. So we clean the vehicles once a week. And so at the end of the week, when they clean the vehicle, they send in 4 pictures, one of every side of the vehicle. And then they send in the front seat area and the back seat area. So they send in 6 photos total. And that's every, so we can see what the vehicles look like. So you can see the inside, you can see the outside, every angle, make sure nothing's been wrecked and your wrap is still intact and there's not trash all over the vehicle.
That's a great
And so
idea.
that's helped out a lot.
Okay, I love that.
And it holds them accountable because everybody can see it. They can see what every text vehicle looks like. Um, but yeah, with everything, there's good and bad. Like I said, it holds them accountable because they can see that everybody's doing it. And then the bad part of it is if a guy doesn't do it right, then you'll get other techs not doing it right because then they're thinking, well, that guy only sent in 4 photos, and so then they'll send in 4. And it's like then you got to. It's almost like you got to babysit adults. It's like no, you have to do all of them. I don't care what he did. We're getting onto him in the background, not calling him out for everybody. We're letting him know privately. And so then you got to rein everybody back in.
I'd be like, "Hey, where's your 2 other pictures at?" That's the part that I'm not real good at. Like, what did you call it? The verbal judo?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how Christopher is like that too. He's more kind of how you would be, or like my wife would be, just more direct. And like I'm like too nice, and I kind of dance around it, or I was like, well, this, that. And Christopher's like, no, like they just got to do it. It's not hard. Like these are 30-year-old men, 40-year-old men, 50-year-old men and women that they have kids, they have families, they're adults, they know how to do these things. And he's just like they're purposely not doing it. And he's teaching me a lot too because I've been really relaxed with it, and it's just one of those things where I'm like, well, it's not a big deal, it's just one photo. I'm sure it's clean. And he's like, if they're not following that, there's other things that they're not following. How do you know they're closing the gate when they go in? How do you know they're doing everything that they're supposed to do? How do you know they're cleaning their rake after every job? If they can't take one picture, they're probably not spraying up their rake after every job because they're being lazy or they're being forgetful.
This guy sounds
Um,
amazing. He was sent from
yeah,
heaven.
yeah. That's one thing with you talked about Adam and Lindsay. I told Adam about him probably a month after I hired him. And that was one thing Adam said. He goes, "You have to get this guy out of the field before he leaves you."
Yeah, yeah,
He was like,
absolutely.
"Quickly, as fast as you can." And so I had other techs that had been with me, for 3 years that I was worried about even telling them about it because I was worried about they were going to get upset and quit. And at the end of the day, it's like they're great. I love them. It was just he wasn't hired to be a field tech and then just move past you. He was hired to be an operations manager, but that position wasn't available at the moment. And so he did me a favor by scooping for as long as he did, I think it was like 8 months, 8 or 9 months that I had him out there, sometimes 6 days a week scooping. And he'd tell me, he's like, I would literally be in yards just praying, praying for patience, praying for wisdom, just praying that, what we talked about would happen. And I just told him, I said, I'm basically hiring you early for a position that I don't have yet. So it's stressful for me too, because if I didn't get that position open, I could have lost him, and the position just comes from growth. That's the hard thing is you don't know how many clients you're going to lose. People move away, dogs die, finances change. We've had months where we get 30 new clients and we've lost 28 clients. And so I told him, I was like, it's going to happen. Everything that I want is going to happen, but it just comes with clients signing up and clients not canceling.
So I got two questions that kind of go with this because it's like a dance that you got to do. How were you able to afford him like at that position?
Mhm.
Okay, how do I want to ask this question? Were you able to afford him when you first hired him, or did you hire him like ahead of time and you're like, I just got to get more customers to be able to technically afford him?
So I was able to afford it when I first hired him
Okay.
because of the field tech job. That's what he applied for, and so that's what was open. So yeah, I had it for that position.
Okay, and then when you moved him up, obviously that position comes with probably a price increase or a rate increase. I would
Yeah,
imagine. And then with him not producing, he's not physically out there working, producing. Um, like how does that work? That's overhead that doesn't have like production attached to it, right? Or am I
right.
thinking wrong?
No, no, that's right.
So
Yeah, that's
how do you afford that? What did that take?
yeah, that's the hard part. So that's basically what I told him when I hired him. We had four technicians, and and so at that point, I couldn't really hire an operations manager, like someone that wasn't producing. And so I just had the number in my head um, from doing the math and Excel and maybe not even great math, just I have a dreamer mindset. So
Yeah.
I'm dreaming, plus I'm also doing this math. But and it worked out. But I told him, I said, um, I can afford an operations manager that isn't scooping at six technicians. Um, and so that was the number for me, and that's where we're at right now. Six technicians with him as an operations manager, and so
And that's 600,
it's
600 customers underneath him about or no?
no 800, almost 900.
Oh, okay, because I thought you said six technicians and each technician's doing 150. Am I off?
Yeah, they do like 150 to 180.
Okay,
I have one guy that does like 188 a week. Um, some do 130, but yeah, we're doing like last week we did 946 jobs.
okay.
Uh, and yeah, that's just with the six technicians.
Y'all are wild. I have so many other questions I want to ask you, but we're like, I think this is really interesting because I think a lot of people, we get stuck. We're at like 200 customers, 180, and we get stuck because we can't figure out how to get to that next person to help pull us out of the field. Um,
Hmm.
and I love that you've been able to figure it out because you you had people that kind of helped you. You thought it through, and you weren't like, okay, I have to perfect this. This has to be exact. It has to be close enough, and then we can kind of figure it out. And so that's
Hmm.
kind of, I don't know, that gives me hope.
Yeah. So that's what I kind of maybe wanted to come on here for because I'm like I get scared too because I don't know all the business insides of it and the numbers and all that. But then I'm also like that could be a good thing because there's a lot of people that aren't, and I want to be the one to show people that. that I'm an idiot and I'm doing it. Basically the worst way to put it. It's like you figure. And one thing I go back to is what Joshua Latimer always says, and I don't know if he made it up, but it's something that I heard him say for years that I still tell people. And he talks about most. I don't. I think he might say all entrepreneurs, but I say most now. But um, we're just the type of person that we jump off the cliff and figure out how to build the plane on the way down. And that's still like that's what I go back to when people ask me questions. Well, how'd you do this? And how did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just jumped and it came together. I figured it out, but it was so crazy in the moment that it just I just figured it out and I even think back on did you watch that movie years ago? We were a lot younger, but I think it was called Drumline with Nick Cannon.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so I know I like analogies, but I get that a lot in my head where I'm like, he couldn't tell you how he played the drum. He can't tell you how to read music. He didn't know how to do that, but he could just do it.
He
Like
felt
he could
it.
just feel it. He could feel it, and he just did it. And I'm like, that's the only thing I can explain when somebody like my neighbor, he's a business guy. They know all these business stuff. They start asking questions, and I'm like, I don't know how to explain it, verbally. I just know how to do it. I just, it's just a feeling. I just have this gut feeling that, you know, at six technicians, I can have an operations manager. And they're like, someone's like, well, how do you know, like, how much profit do you have? How much this? How much is set aside for that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just know that it's there. And it's gonna be there.
You're like, "Quit
It's
asking me all
just
these silly questions."
that was just the number, and so that's what I was afraid of. Was like, I don't know all the questions really, but I want to somehow give people hope in that way that like if you just don't give up, keep doing it every single day, just the things that you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
taking care of your customers, closing gates, cleaning your equipment, talking to them, doing the invoices. I forgot to do invoices a lot in the beginning. Um, but yeah, just consistently doing it every day, it'll work out. You don't have to know, we have people that join the group that ask all these questions and like how do you have this? What dumpsters do you use? What CRM do you use? And I'm like, and they're like, should I start in 3 months? Do I need to get a business LLC? And I'm like, these people are crazy. Like, just do it. I bought a $20 DBA down at the courthouse. The first job I did, I put an ad on Craigslist and somebody signed up and I didn't have a rake. I didn't have a bucket. My wife cleaned up after our dog. She would use a Walmart grocery bag and just go out there and pick it up. Um, and so that's what I tell people. Like I literally started. I had a Honda Fit. I didn't know about having a bucket on the back of it. I didn't know how I was. I didn't know where I was going to throw away the poop at. The first person that signed up, I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, I got a customer. Like, what do I do now? And and my wife was like, well, you got to go clean their yard. And I was like, I don't even have a bucket and a rake. I can't just go. I can't. I'm not going to go there with a bunch of Walmart bags. Like, I want to look professional. That was always like my mindset is like, I want to look the part, even if I don't fully know it. Um, and I called my mom. That's kind of like the funny story from how I started. And I called her and was like, do you still have your bucket and rake? And she had this, the little bitty metal one that you can buy at Petco.
Yeah, the
It's like
homeowner ones.
this what? Yeah, and the little blue rake.
Yeah.
Um, she had that, and so I called her. She said it was there, and I ran to my kitchen. I remember I put on a polo shirt. I shaved my face like I was going for a job interview. So I ran and shaved off all the hair on my face, so I looked professional. And I ran into our kitchen. I took the trash bag out of the trash can, um, took our kitchen trash can with me, went to my mom's house, grabbed the bucket and the rake, and then went to this client's house. And I was so nervous. I was shaking. Because I didn't know, like the confidence, a lot of confidence comes from, knowing the things
Yeah.
and doing it. I didn't know how to, if I should put the trash bag in a bucket, if I shouldn't, or the trash can, and how many I should take with me. And yeah, it was a nightmare. They had two Great Danes. One pile filled up pan,
Yeah.
and then I had to go put it in there. And they didn't have a gate, so I had to walk through their house. I tracked poop through the house on my shoes when I was finally done. It took me about 2 hours, middle of summer, and they paid me $12.50. And I got home and I was like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever done. I said, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again. I was like, there's no way. I said, that was stupid. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I just went back to my full time job. And I think it was like 2 weeks later, that lady reached out and she was like, hey, are you going to come back and keep this going? And I was like, nope. I said, I'm traveling a lot with my job right now. And I don't have the time anymore. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it was, it was rough. So that's why I like to just tell it just because, it's embarrassing, but at the same time, like, I hope it helps out other people that, like, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know all the business. You don't got to know systems. I used to um, pull over on the side of the road, and I had my box of trash bags, and clients would call to sign up, and I would literally pull over and I would write down their address and how many dogs they had on the cardboard box because I had nothing else. I would just start writing it down on there, and I would get home and I'd have this cardboard box. Like, okay, wait, this two dogs went with this lady's name, and it was a mess. But I just for some reason I just kept doing it every day, and then I found out about Yardbook, and then I found out about using Square, and then I found out about Sweep and Go, and then I found out about Weebly and made a website, and you know, I don't use those things now, but you don't have to know all the things that someone is using now. You got to go through the process and learn those things and add those things on later as you go.
Man.
Yeah.
Man, no, that was so good. Thank you for taking us a stroll down memory lane. How are you getting customers through the door?
For me, it's just Google ads. I'd say, like, I almost want to say, unfortunately, like feeding the Google machine.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm probably more, laid back business owner than I should be. I don't go out, and I'm a people pleaser, so I don't like to bother people, so like going knocking on doors or putting flyers on doors, I feel like I'm bothering people. Um, Even when I was out scooping, if someone was walking their dog, I would just say hi. I didn't give them a card. I didn't try to sell them on it. I'm like, I don't want to bother people. I just want them to organically, if they wanted my service, they would ask me about it. And you have other business owners that are like, they'll want to shake me. They're like, no, you need to tell them, give them a card and tell them what you do. And I'm just like, there's probably a lot more. There's Facebook ads, and there's, going out and knocking on doors and meeting people. I used to go to events. I used to take flyers to shelters and, adoption events. But they just from my experience and a lot of other scoopers' experience, it's just a waste of time.
It didn't work.
Um, yeah,
I think those
and
are
so
nice in the beginning when you have more time than money,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
But
that's
when
true.
once you start getting more money, then you can start dialing in because I'm sure if you feel comfortable, I mean, how much do you spend on Google Ads per month?
Um, try to be around 5,000. I've gone up to 8,000
That's
a month when I wasn't watching it too closely.
Yeah, no, that's good, and you're hammering it on right there on one channel, which is smart instead of being like all over the place. Because I even noticed that with my YouTube channel about a month ago. I decided I was like, I'm done. I'm not posting on TikTok anymore. I deleted TikTok. I'm rarely posting on Instagram. I just started going hard on YouTube, and I gained like
Mhm.
700 and something watch hours in the past 30 days, which is huge for my
Wow.
channel. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
"Huh, if I just could stay focused on one place, I can really make some stuff move." So I've had some, like, eye-opening experiences in the past 30 days.
Yeah. I just heard that too on one of Alex's podcasts, talking about just doing the one thing. That's cool. You're doing it
Um,
right.
yeah, I was listening to that today, actually. It was something about, like, he had the thumbnail and then had, like, where it looked like little Post-its by any chance, like,
Mhm.
On the YouTube channel thumbnail. I was listening to that before we started
Yeah.
recording.
That's what I need to focus on too. Is just I don't know. I wish there was more than just Google, but when someone asks me, I'm like, because they don't have money to spend, especially when they're new. And I just don't like, I'm like, unfortunately, like our, there's a lot of people that don't know that this industry exists. And most people ask Google about everything. And so they'll Google, is there someone to clean up dog poop? And then you're going to pop up. Or they know they can buy the tool to do it themselves. So they're going to Google the pooper scooper tool. And so you want to pull up and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know I could pay somebody for this. There's still a ton of people that don't know they can pay somebody to do this. That's just been the best for me. Even like with Facebook, you get all the comments saying, I can't believe people pay for this. Da, da, da. So I'm like, it's just Google's been the best because you get the people that want or need it. But yeah, it's been a process even figuring that out. We just got some new welcome bags for new clients.
I seen those, Mr. Producer. Let's put in a
Yeah,
picture of his welcome bags. They're so cute. Where did you get those from?
yeah. From Alibaba.
Okay, yeah.
So we have custom purple tennis balls. We have the yellow welcome bag, and then actually the bag dispenser that looks like the little bone
Mhm.
with the poop bags in it that clips onto your leash. Those are in it, and so that's one of my technicians and my operations manager. That's kind of one of their things. Like, hey, for marketing, why don't we just carry some extra tennis balls with us, and when dogs are barking at us in neighbor's yard, we'll just throw them a tennis ball. You kind of you're giving the dog a toy, and if the client sees it, it's gonna have your company name on it. So that's another marketing thing that we're looking at. I don't know. It's just one of those things that I don't know. I don't like the in your face marketing. But at the same time, like I said, Joshua Latimer is one of my idols, and if he was sitting next to me right now, he'd probably slap me in the back of the head because he is all about in your face marketing. He's like, stop spending money on Google and go stick it in their face. Um, I forget what he called it. There's a word for it, but he's like, that's Joshua Latimer would say that's the best marketing is mailing out postcards or knocking on the door and showing them because you can and he even says you can price it, whatever you want when you do it that way because you're all they know. If they're on Google, they're seeing three other companies, they're getting quotes from other people, they're shopping around. Whereas if you're at their front door or you're putting it on their door or you're mailing them something that you can price whatever you want because he's like that's all they know.
Mhm.
They see yours, they're like, oh, I didn't know the service even existed. This guy does it. We're gonna call them. They don't even think to shop around.
So with your leads that are coming in through Google, if they don't approve it right away, do you have a follow-up process to like stay on top of them?
We're kind of doing some new things with that too. So with our sign up form, they're required to put a card on file to submit the form.
To get a quote?
So yeah, well, it gives them a quote. So I don't really require. There's some companies that require a phone number to get a quote.
Oh.
Um, I don't. I just want to keep it simple and make people feel safe, and so they can get. They basically just put in how many dogs they have, how often they want service, when it was clean last, and then it gives them a quote. It gives them the initial visit, gives them their what it's going to cost per visit. So it gives them everything, and then if they want to sign up, they put in their name, their address, their phone number, their email, and then to fully submit it, there's a card on file. They can choose check option, so they can basically there's a question that says, I'm not ready to put a card on file. I have more questions. They can choose that, but 98% of people just put a card on file. Um, so yeah, so normally what would happen is they would sign up. I would just send them an email real like within 5 minutes. I send an email that just says, thank you for signing up for our service. We're in your neighborhood on, one day a week or 2 days, whatever it is. I'll add the days there. We're in your neighborhood on Mondays and Thursdays. I have a spot open on both routes. Which day would you prefer? Or I'd say, or I would just say, I have an open spot on our Wednesday route. If that works for you, let me know. I'll get you added. And then I would wait for an email back. If they didn't email back within a day, then I would call them or send them a text. I was just really bad about it. If I couldn't get a hold of them, I would wait probably a week and then I would just deactivate their account and I just move on. another thing where probably someone would shake me is like, you got to follow up with those leads, and you got to get them, and you got to keep going. And I'm just like, I'm just the type that if they don't want us, I don't want them. Kind of deal. It's just I don't follow back up with one time onlys. I don't follow up with leads that didn't turn into anything. I just keep going with the people that want to use us and focus on that. The new thing, my operations manager, we were just talking about it yesterday, was and this just started happening, where they'll sign up, he'll call them and leave them a voicemail, and we don't hear from him. He'll call them the second day, nothing. I'll send an email, nothing. And so just this week, he was like, "Let's try something new." He said they have a card on file, like they've given us their card information, they've gotten a price, they want the service. Maybe they're busy, maybe they're forgetful. A lot of people that sign up for our service are forgetful, or just have a lot going on. And so the last two that we had, that he couldn't get them on the phone, I couldn't get them through email, and there was a card on file. We just assigned them, and the tech went. He cleaned up the yard, left them the welcome bag on the back door, and then 10 minutes later, we got a 5 star through Swoop and Go that they rated the tech 5 star and gave him a $10 tip. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It's super weird. They didn't want to talk to us on the phone. They didn't email me back. We just showed up on whatever day we could, and they loved the service.
I was gonna say because you made it easy for them. They just don't wanna think about it. They just wanna pay and you take care of all of it. So that's a good move. That's a good little tip right there.
The way my brain works is I see the good and bad in everything, so I can never I'm very indecisive because I can see both sides. And so even with this, I'm like, I'm just worried. As I was telling him yesterday, I said, what if somebody has an aggressive dog? Because they're not required to put their dog information when they sign up. And so what if we just send the tech there, and then a aggressive Rottweiler comes out, you know, or an angry or protected pit bull.
So
And so that,
when they approve the quote and they sign up, there's no spot to add just like one question where it says like, "Is your dog aggressive with strangers?" Is there any way to
yeah,
you should add that so at least you know that bit of information.
yeah, I could add it. I've taken it on and off so many times.
I would leave it. That's the one thing that I do not remove off of my request form, when I make edits
Yeah,
because we've had
but
several bites.
I've just tried to make it like simpler for people to do. So I took stuff off, and then I just told my mom and Christopher. I just said, that's one of the things you have to remember to ask them, on the phone, like, is your dog safe? Because the problem that I was getting annoyed with the form, because you have like, I had so many people that would say yes, their dog was aggressive, which immediately puts us into, protection mode, make sure I'm safe. It kind of makes you nervous when you get there,
Yes.
because we get a little red exclamation mark on that job, and that red exclamation mark means there's an aggressive dog. And then it's just frustrating because there's so many people that would say yes, which causes all these internal nervousness. And then you look at it, and their dog's not nervous at all. They'll put in the notes, um, he's super friendly, we're just worried he's going to get out of the gate. And I'm like, well, don't put aggressive. I don't do it, but there are companies out there that if you have an aggressive dog, they'll leave your gate open when they go in, because they want to be able to get out quickly, or they want the dog to see freedom instead of attack them. And and so I would get irritated because I'm like, don't do, we don't do. I tell my guys, close it no matter what. Jump the fence, where you got to do. Your rake and bucket is your sword and
Yeah.
shield. But it just got really irritating because I'm like, they'll put on their, it's a Pomeranian, and they're like, they'll put aggressive, and we don't know what kind of dog it is, or you got to look at somewhere else to see that, and then they'll put in the notes, it's not aggressive, they just bark a lot, and it's annoying. I'm like, don't say it's aggressive.
There's a difference between, like, an aggressive cane corso and then an aggressive chihuahua. Like, you could punt the little dog, but a cane corso, like, that dog's gonna kill you.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I feel
yeah,
you on that. There has to be a
yeah,
workaround.
yeah. This just, I just feel like we have a lot of things about our industry because it's not so much well known. So there's a lot of educating of clients that you have to do, which is probably the most irritating thing for me. Because to me, I'm like, it's just common sense, but you get a lot that just, I guess, because it's such a new thing to people, Like if the pest control guy's coming, you automatically unlock your gate, you bring your dogs inside, and you wait for them to show up, you know? And then with ours, we're constantly having like, your aggressive dog needs to be inside and your gate needs to be unlocked. And I'm just like, why do we have all these issues? And it's just, the only thing I can think of is just from it just being so new or not well known that you have to educate people.
Educate and set the
Um,
standard. Like with even with
yeah.
pricing, with being prepaid, I remember I was getting compared to being a landscaper, and they're like, "Well, landscapers pay post pay." I said, "Well, we're not landscapers. I'm a dog waste removal technician, and we do prepaid on the first of every month." And
Mm.
I got a lot of pushback. It was a pain in the butt, but as has gone on, the standard has been set, and I've noticed other local companies have seen that I've been able to do it, and now they've actually changed their pricing model as well. So it's kind of like the
Yeah.
standard.
I've gone back and forth with different ones multiple times. I still don't have everything like set in stone how I want it. I'm still learning and trying to figure it all out. But to me, it's every decision you can make has good and bad with it. It's just trying to figure out which one works best for you. That's been difficult.
Um,
We even want to expand to more locations, and I'm like, I just want to figure out these locations first. Get this figured out.
yeah, I have like the standard set, so then you can just build and grow. So it takes all the guesswork out of it. You're like, this works. It's proven that it works. And that's what my virtual assistant does for me because I'm also like you, like I see the good and the bad and circumstantial. Like it depends on how I'm feeling that day is how how the outcome is going to be. And with having her do a lot of my office stuff, she's like, we need to have a standard. So how do you want it done? So now it's in black and white. So it doesn't matter if I'm having a good day, a bad day, if I like the customer or I don't like the customer.
Oh no, I'm saying no. You're describing me.
Yeah. So my favorite number is 5 because it's right in the middle of 1 and 10, so it's neutral.
Yeah,
And so I've told
that's funny.
myself that I'm no longer being a number 5. I have to either be on one side or the other. There's no more indecisiveness. And that's within the last 3 months. I'm like,
That's hard.
it's so hard, but I do feel like you can't really make progression, at least from my experience, when I'm consistently like a 5. I'm just neutral all the time.
Consistently inconsistent. I would say I'm consistently inconsistent.
Right, right. Well, I mean, you've been growing, you've been doing it. I mean, it goes to prove that you've been able to grow a big business and expand even with not knowing everything.
Mhm.
What would you say that you're struggling with right now in business?
Mainly just like what we were talking about, just having things uniform and everything going the same way. I can't think of the word right now, but
Like consistent?
yeah, not really that. Just I don't know. So like I have three trucks and three cars. And so things are like the trucks can have this set up in the back of the truck. The cars can't. So things are like not the same. I want like uniform basically. And that's what I'm dealing with. It's things not being uniform. Or I have a tech that they like to do things this way and another tech likes to do it this way. And I'm kind of okay with both because I can see how this works and how that works. My operations manager is like, no,
Standard.
it you need to figure out how you like it, and then you need to make them do it the way that you want them to do it. And I'm just like, well, he likes it this way, so it makes his day go better, and it's easier for him. So let him do it that way. And he's like, well, what about this guy doing it this way? I'm like, well, that's how he likes it. And he's like, no, like you can't do that. I'm too much of a people pleaser, so I'm working on that. That's probably yeah. Right now, the difficult thing with the business is just getting all of my technicians on the same page and everybody understanding exactly what I want and how I want it, and just make sure they're all doing it that way.
Maybe you could have some team meetings. Maybe that's what your team meetings should be about and say, listen, everybody's kind of doing things a little bit different. We need a standardized practice. So everybody can chat. We can all get together. Everybody can put their input. And then we're going to take all that data and we're going to come up with a standardized procedure. And this is how it's going to be. And then that way, everybody kind of has put their input in it. And then it's not like you chose one person over the other. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where we're at right now, which I'm feeling is hopefully normal. When you get to the point where you have, the point that we're at right now, I don't know. I look at life and business as like a book. We're just it's chapters, and this is just normal for the chapter that we're in. Like it's supposed to be a mess. It's supposed to be not all crazy because the way to get to the next chapter is to fix those things, and then we'll progress into the next chapter. So it's like my goal this year has been to get to 1,050 jobs a week. Doesn't have to be clients, but it's just 1,050 jobs is my goal for this year. And it's kind of a mess, but I'm like thinking like, well, maybe that's why is I'm in that process, and it's like to get to that point, you have to fix these things first. And so that's what's messed right now. And that's what I'm working on is having everything the same because I didn't know that I was that way until I got the operation manager because he remembers things and he's like, "You said this last week, and now today you're telling me to do it this way." So he's like,
Yes.
"What do you want?" And he tells me all the time, he's like, "I'll do whether I agree with it or not." He said, "I'll do what you want me to do, but you gotta tell me and stop changing it." Because he's like, one day you feel like he can do it this way, and then the next day you're in a bad mood and you're like, "Heck no, he can't do that. It has to do it this way." And he's like, "I told him last week that it was okay because you said it was okay." And he's like, "You gotta." So, like you said, that's how I am. Where he's telling me like, it doesn't matter what mood you're in, it has to be done this way every single time.
Oh, I
And
love
like we're getting like with gas cards right now, we're using a credit card, and I don't want them using it for anything but gas. And we had an issue with a guy using it for other stuff, and it was bad. And then someone asked yesterday if they could use it for bottled water, and it was 105 degrees outside. And I'm like, I want to say yes, but he's like, but you have to say no because if it was just a credit or a gas card and not a credit card, he wouldn't be able to use it for that. He would figure something else out.
right.
And so it's just like it's just hard because I want to please everybody and be nice to everybody, and even we're looking at getting QT gas cards now, and I'm like, I got one guy that I know wouldn't like a QT gas card. He likes where he goes and gets gas, and he's gonna get all upset, and I don't want to bother him. And he's like, so you want? He's like, maybe you got 20 texts. You want 19 using this and one guy using the other one. Then you got to track both of them. And so I'm kind of learning that like I always hate the saying in movies where they say it's just business. It's nothing personal. It's just business. I always hate that, but I'm like I'm learning that that's why they say it because I'm getting to that point where I have to be like, it's just business. I had the guy with the heat stroke, and I'm telling him like, take time off. He hasn't let me know if he's coming back or not, and I'm being all nice, relaxed about it. And then my operation manager is out running a route today, and so he's the one telling me he's like, you got to figure out if he can do this job or not. And I'm like, well, I'm giving him some time, and he's like, that's not how this works. Like, we got a guy that wants a job that has experience. He's got 3 years of experience. You got this other guy that we don't think he can cut it. He's like, you got to figure it out.
Well,
And
yeah,
so
what's the
it's
proper
hard.
time for recovery for heat stroke?
I don't know.
Yeah, I would find
He,
that
he
out.
my operation manager was like, he should be fine because he went to the hospital. They pumped him full of fluids. We saw him that day, and he was even like, I feel perfect. I feel great. Like I feel like it never even happened because they just pumped me full of all the stuff they gave me. And then the next day, I asked if he was going to work that day or try it out, and he's like, "Oh, I still feel bad." And I'm like, "Well, yesterday you felt fine."
I'd probably give him 3 to 5 days at max, and then if he doesn't wanna come back, then just say that his position's gonna be filled, so you have 5 days to come back.
So that's what I did last night. I was like, I've been kind of seeing how he felt. And then yesterday I just had to tell him, I said, this happened Tuesday. He was off Wednesday. He's off today. I said, come in tomorrow, start early before it even gets hot. And, at least try it because we need to know. The only way to know is if you do it. And, I don't want you to die out there, but don't push yourself. But if it comes around noon or 1 o'clock and you feel like you can finish, then finish and we're good. But if you're like, I can't do it. This is the third time in a row that I've been out and I can't do it. Then I said, you got to let me know. And I finally it took me forever to even hit the send button, but I finally just had to tell him, I said, look, I like you as a person. I love that you working for me. But I said, unfortunately, I have to know by Friday if you can do this or not, because I said, I don't have any part-time positions open. I can't have you living in the middle of the route. There's nowhere to move these customers to. We're full every day. I need someone that can work Monday through Friday all day. And so I just finally just had to tell him, I said, I like that you work here. I like you as a person. I have nothing against you. I said, but I have to know by Friday if you can do this or not, because I have to hire somebody over the weekend to start on Monday because there's nobody else to run these routes. And I heard that in my head. I wanted to say it's just business, But I told him, I said, if you can't do it, I said, I'll hold nothing against you, no bad feelings at all. And I said, he mentioned maybe working at Bucky's, because it's indoors. And I said, I will give you the best recommendation you've ever had if you put my number down, because it's nothing against you. I have to have somebody that can work Monday through Friday and run the route, the whole route. And I got guys that are more out of shape than he is, that are 10 years older than he is. They're all running routes. And so, I got to watch what I say as an employer, but I'm like, at the end of the day, I want to be like, you just got to man up. And it's hot. It's hot for everybody. But you got to just toughen up and do it.
Yeah, we don't work anything air conditioned.
The frustrating thing for me is like, we're only in the yard for 5 minutes at a time, less than 10.
You have
So
small yards then. How big are your yard sizes? Tiny?
um, most of them are pretty small. The little cookie cutter neighborhoods, all the
Mm,
nicest brick houses that are all in a row.
I love
But
those.
we have a few that are big. We have some that are like an acre and a half. Those we'll do like a good grid pattern, normal yard size, and then we'll kind of, I say like a heartbeat monitor is how I kind of describe, like waves. We'll do the back area in waves, and so the most is probably 15 minutes in a yard.
I don't want to end this interview on like, what do you need to improve on? I want to add it on a positive note. So I want to know, what do you think that you're really strong at and really good at within your business?
I don't know. I get told a lot, and I feel like it's just branding is probably the biggest one. Um, but that's been like me from the beginning. When I did junk removal, I didn't go out and do a job until I had trash mob embroidered on my shirt. You know, it had to look professional. I can't just show up in just regular clothes. So yeah, all of my techs wear the uniform like I'm wearing here. I have branded hats that are embroidered, and the I don't have anybody using their own vehicles. I don't have magnets. I spend a couple grand on full vehicle wraps. Everybody has a company vehicle. It's fully wrapped. Got the tennis balls and the welcome bags, the website. That's I don't know. That's what I feel like the best thing for me right now is branding. I've done really good at that. The colors, the logos, the putting that out there. The marketing side of it, not so much, but the branding at least, I've done good at that. And then really, I think I've done good at getting employees that can do the job, that can do it well. I got a good team right now, and so getting them in, training them in 1 to 2 days, and we've got a good system. You know, that's what I told. So I've just recently learned this from hiring guys from other companies, is they've kind of let me learn that. Like I was saying earlier, is it's kind of one of the things that I'm doing really good right now, is just I have the right equipment, I'm paying them the right way. Their routes are pretty tight. We have a good software that optimizes everything. They can send text messages from it, take pictures from it. Everything's in a good order. So I don't know. I guess that would be like, I guess, the structure of everything.
Like, how many people are you interviewing to get one person that you're going to bring through to train them?
Last time it was 22 people.
And how quickly are you interviewing them? Like, how long are these interviews taking?
The last ones were about an hour.
A
We were
piece?
going for 30 minutes, but as you can tell, I talk a lot, so they would turn into an hour.
Okay, and then, yeah, that's a long time. How do you have I was gonna say, how do you have time to do that? But you're not in the field anymore. So if you okay, last
Yeah.
question, I promise. If there's somebody that's in the field, they're tired, they're exhausted, they're just like, "Oh, I need to hire," but they don't have time. Like, what is some just straight to the point pointers you could give to them to kick these interviews out quickly to find the right person?
that would be back to what I used to do. Um, Basically, if I would put something on Indeed, and then when someone applied, I would literally like the first person that applied, if they just looked good where they were at, where they lived, some kind of experience. Um, Basically, the quickest thing that I did with my first four hires, and three of them are still with me. Um, I would just call them like as I was scooping yards. Like I would even tell them I'm scooping yards right now. You can hear it. You know, dogs are barking at me. Hey, sorry, I'm working. Like I'm doing the job. And but yeah, so yeah, the quickest way to do it if you need somebody now and you're working in the field would be to just call them and have a casual conversation. Just see if they're the kind of person that you like, that you can talk to. They might end up being bad. I've had a dozen people that I've had to let go because it wasn't good, but you just have to do it.
How
That's
quickly are
really the,
you
is
how quickly are you letting them go when you realize that it's not working?
some of them were quick, some of them were too long. I've had some bad fires where it didn't go the way I wanted it to go because I just let them stay way longer than they should have. Or I've had them just quit because they shouldn't have been here, and then they quit on a Friday morning, which is our biggest day. So that's what I tell everybody is like it's not going to be like a unicorn, it's not going to be a perfect person, but you get to the point where you're so busy where I was at, because my wife would even get on to me, what are you doing hiring this person? They're not good at all. And I'm like, if they last 3 days, I'll be thankful because it's going to just take a little bit off my plate and I can get someone else hired. So yeah, I would just say if, there's some non-negotiables that I have, like if they're a felon or, a crackhead or, just things like that were right off. But if they could carry on a conversation and if I could tell them what we do and how we do it, and they didn't ask a bunch of questions like, oh yeah, that's simple. I get it. It's common sense.
Yeah.
Then I would bring them in. So basically the quickest way to hire what my typical hiring process was when I was in the field was I would they would apply on Indeed. I'd write down their name, their phone number. I would I would stress and have anxiety from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock about calling them, and then I would almost call them two or three times between 11 and 1 o'clock, and then at 2 o'clock I would get frustrated at myself and say, "When you get home, your wife was going to ask you if you called them or not. You're going to have to tell them that you didn't." So then I'd finally be like, I'd get caught in mouth and I'd get nervous and I'd be like, "Oh," because I don't know, I get so nervous about calling new people, and I would finally like as I was walking to a gate, I would just say, Siri, the S word, and tell her to call so and so. And she would start calling. And then I would end up just having sometimes a 2 or 3 hour conversation with them. And I didn't apologize. Like, I'm sorry, I know this first time you talked to me. And I'd lie and say, I would say, I don't normally do this, but we're just getting along so well. I don't want to take a much. And they'd be like, oh, no, no, you're good. I'm loving all the details that you're telling me. And, um, and I would tell them, I'd say, um, I would just say, hey, like, I'm in a small business. I'm doing everything myself. I'm scooping. And so I basically just say the way this works is if you like this, I think you sound great. But if this sounds good for you and you like it, um, meet me tomorrow morning. I have a route to do. Meet me tomorrow morning. We will go do 2 to 4 yards, and you just shadow me. I just I just want you to see firsthand exactly what we do. See the poop, see that we actually do rake it into a bagged bucket, see that you have to tie the bucket, you got to spray off the rake. See the nastiness that comes along with it. Is I was basically telling them that I want you to just come in, and they'd be like, "Oh no, no, I know what it is. It's good." But the part that I wasn't telling them is I also wanted to kind of meet them in person and see that I liked being around them and see that they looked like who I wanted to have in backyards at customer's house. But yeah, yeah. So in short, yeah. So I would call them the next day. They'd meet me at 7:30 in the morning. What typically would happen is I'd tell them we would do 2 to 4 yards with them just shadowing me, and then I would take them back to the office, and then they let me know if they like it, and that would give me time to wait for them to see if I wanted them. But that's usually not the way it works. So I'd call them, we'd talk. The next day they'd show up at 7:30. They would go do 2 or 3 yards with me, and I'd say, "Hey, I think you'd be good at this. Do you like it? Do you think you could do it? You have anything else to do the rest of the day?" They'd say, "No, I'm all yours." And bam, I would just happen to have another rake and a bucket in the truck, and we would go do the 38 yards that I had that day. They would be right there. We would be doing it together, and then I'd say, "See you tomorrow." And I would literally, this is back then, they would work with me for 2 full weeks because we have biweeklies, and I would want them to see every single yard with me because I was terrified of them not seeing in a yard and messing something up.
Mhm.
So they would work with me for 2 weeks, and then the third Monday they would go out on their own. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of issues once they got on their own. They didn't know how to work the app right. They would miss piles. They would just do really dumb things. But I just feel like you just got to do it. You can't wait till you get the perfect person. You can't. It just you just hire them, and then they don't. I hired one lady. She did 8 yards in 10 hours. Little bitty yards. She was taking 45 minutes in like every single yard. She was making sure that like there was not one speck. She was flipping every leaf, every piece of paper, and luckily she saw it, because she saw what she needed to get done and what she didn't.
Yeah.
So I got really lucky with her because she called me on a Saturday and was like, "I don't think I can do this job," and I was like, "Oh, are you sure?" And I'm like, and we're in the middle of Target, and I'm like, "Yeah, she's quitting," you know. But like to her, like, "Are you sure? Like, I think you can work. We can make it work out. You just need some time." And she's like, "No, no, you're sweet, but I can't do this." And then I hired a guy that was colorblind,
Oh,
and his
yeah.
color blinds were it was greens and browns, and he didn't tell me that until he started getting a lot of complaints. Yeah, so it's like it's terrifying, but you're not going to lose 150 clients that you give them like everybody thinks. Like I used to think I was going to, if someone just screwed it up. You might get a couple upset people, but you just put out the fire and just keep going. That's all I do. I just keep going.
How a new person to get before you can them.
It depends on what it is,
Like
and
a quality issue. Like, say, for instance, they're missing piles, and then you have, I don't know, people that are saying, I want a different scooper. I don't want this person anymore. They're missing too many piles. At what point are you like, you scoop with your eyes closed, apparently?
I guess at that point, because I've never had anybody say they didn't want a tech coming back out. Um, but if I did, then yeah, that would be something's wrong. So I've just have kind of learned, even because I scooped for so long, that a lot of the clients that complain, it's it's exaggerated. Sometimes it's not even true. So I don't really let someone go over complaints. What we do is if they're getting a lot of complaints where it seems like an issue, then we do quality checks. So either myself or my operations manager, we have a sheet that we basically follow the tech without them knowing that we're following them because I want to be 100%. So I tell myself or Christopher that when that guy drives off, within 2 minutes, we're in the backyard. And so I want to make sure that the dog has not been out. There is no fresh piles. There's no, ifs or whatever about it. It's like we're there immediately. And that's what we've done is we just kind of look at how many piles we're seeing for ourselves because I had a lady call one time and said the guy was missing a lot of poop, and I went back and it was charcoal in her backyard. It wasn't even poop, and she's like, "Well, it looks like poop to me." I'm like, "Well, it's not," Or we've had people, they'll complain because they missed one, not even a pile, but like a turd broke off and they missed it. Yeah, and then yeah, and that's where I got into educating customers. It's like you have 4 dogs. We scoop seven, every 7 days. There's 50 to 70 piles in your yard when he comes out. And if he misses that one, they'll rate him 1 star and be like, I might cancel if this happens again. And I was just like, he missed one out of 54 piles for $18. That's pretty good. And we tell them like, hey, we're human. We're using the human eyeball. And sometimes the harder you look for something, the easier it is to miss it. And it's a lot easier to miss one pile when there's 56 piles in the yard than it is to it's a lot easier to see that one pile when it's the only pile in the yard, you know? So it goes to a lot of like just telling clients that way. And they're like, oh yeah, I never really thought of it like that. Because I tell people like same thing, like if you're doing a word, where you're trying to search for the pictures in a puzzle
Yeah.
and then someone looks over their over your shoulder and they're like, it's right there. How did you not see that? It's like, well, because I've been sitting here like straining my eyes looking for it. I kind of like to use that metaphor with people, and it kind of helps. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't have a standard amount of complaints. We just kind of play it by ear, what the complaint is, and then if it's like, I've had it where I'm like, man, this guy's getting a lot. Like my last guy, I had to let him go because he got into a wreck, but he should have been let go a lot earlier. He kept getting a lot of complaints like every day, every week, where I finally said, okay, we got to go do quality checks. And there were yards that he was missing 15, 20 piles in a yard. And it's like, what are you doing? And so we would show him and then train him, and then he would do really good. And I hate firing people. I hate affecting people's lives that way. So
Mhm.
I gave him a lot more grace than I should have. He would work certain days not even wearing his uniform. But yeah, he ultimately got into wreck from staring at his phone, and we let him go for that, which made me feel better. Like that was a good reason. I mean, all of them were a good reason,
I've done that too.
but
Let it
yeah,
go too long and then dog gets let out or an accident happens. So I get that. Well, Justin, this was amazing. You've given so much insight into the business and who you are as a person and just let people know that we're just figuring it out. And so I really think I honestly think this is going to be one of the most valuable podcasts that I have on my platform.
I'm hoping. I hope I didn't ramble on too much. I can do
No,
that.
this was so
uh,
good. It was so value packed. I'm sure the listeners are going to be like, "Erica, shut up. Why are you even talking? Just let him talk."
no, no, I probably talked too much.
No, that's good. Well, do you
But
have any last words for the listeners before we wrap it up?
I mean, if for any of the scoopers that I know listen, I would just tell them just to, if you don't know things, or you feel like you're doing things wrong, just keep doing whatever you're doing. That whatever you're doing wrong now, you might figure out in a week. It might take 2 months, but you'll figure it out. It's not the end of the world, and you're not going to lose your business over it. So just make the mistakes, learn from them, and figure it out as you go. Stop trying to figure it all out right now.
Right. And
Just let the process work.
yeah. And if you don't, if you're like, I need to know everything right now, go ahead and click my link down in the description for the Poop Scoop Millionaire community over on School, because that is tactical step by step on how to start, grow, and run your pooper scooper business. All right. Bye, everybody. Talk to you soon.